Well, Commanders fans, that took a turn for the exciting. The Commanders lose in Week 15, 28-20. However, a big storyline here, Sam Howell, the starting quarterback for the Commanders, was benched in the fourth quarter after throwing an interception for Jacoby Brissett, where Brissett then proceeds to lead a comeback in the fourth quarter, giving them a shot to win the football game late. So we're going to be breaking down everything coming your way here in just a second. I got 4 takeaways from today's loss to break down with you guys. But first, let's go over the scoreboard here. So, of course, final score 28-20. And you can see the leading passer for the Commanders today was Jacoby Brissett, the backup quarterback for Washington here. 80% completion percentage, 124 yards, which was more than Sam Howell on 16 less attempts. Had 2 touchdowns and no picks. Chris Rodriguez Jr. had some nice runs today, kind of slowed down as the game went on. Then Terry McLaurin went off with Jacoby Brissett in the football game. 6 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. McLaurin looked like the top 10 receiver. I think we all know that he has the potential to be with Brissett in the lineup. So definitely an interesting game here for the Commanders. I'm going to let you know my thoughts on it here in just a second. But first, do me a favor. Get in the comments section right now and let me know. What was your grade for the Washington Commanders' performance here in Week 15? A, B, C, D, or F? For me, I'm going to go with a C-, okay? So that might seem a little bit low given the way that they ended on a positive note offensively. But Sam Howell did not look good. That's not a good sign for the future of your franchise. And then the defense, once again, was straight up abysmal. So, and then Ron Rivera was terrible with game management again. So for me, I'm going to go C-. Let me know down there in the comments section, what is your grade for this Week 15 performance? This is also going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time. But give me a grade for this Week 15 loss. So my first takeaway here, and it's a question. Is it time to worry about Sam Howell? Okay, because Sam Howell was absolutely terrible in this football game. And honestly, he hasn't really looked good the last 3 weeks when they got trounced by the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, when they got trounced by the Dolphins in Miami. And then leading up to when they put in Jacoby Brissett, this offense looked terrible for most of this football game. Sam Howell had some nice throws in this one, but also he had some really bad throws, including a really bad interception. So over these last 3 weeks, I think it's warranted to question whether or not Sam Howell is actually going to be the guy here in Washington moving forward, and especially with a guy like Jacoby Brissett coming in and lighting the world on fire. I really don't know how to feel about Sam Howell here moving forward as the potential franchise quarterback heading into 2024, especially with a top 5 draft pick likely in this team's future. Number 2 takeaway is, do you go to Jacoby Brissett? Right, another question. So is it time to worry about Howell? I would say yes. And is it time to go to Jacoby Brissett? Well, I think that if the Commanders were actually playing for anything, I would say absolutely. Brissett absolutely lit the world on fire in that fourth quarter, and I think that the players in the locker room would definitely want Brissett to play. But if you're looking at from an organizational standpoint and looking big picture, I think it might make more sense to start Sam Howell just because you need to figure out what you have in this kid for the rest of the season. Unless you really think you might be bringing back Jacoby Brissett as your starting quarterback next year, there's really no reason to start him over Sam Howell, who I think actually still has a chance to be the team's starter in 2024. But let me know down there in the comments section. Next week, we're going to be having a live watch party for this Commanders game against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers could be making his return. Who should be the starting quarterback for the Commanders? Type H if you want Sam Howell, or type B if you want Jacoby Brissett. And now before I get into my final 2 takeaways here, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you want a way to spice up your game days this NFL season, the Commanders don't really have much to play for nowadays. You can spice it up with PrizePicks today. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. You may be asking yourselves, Jack, how does daily fantasy sports work? Well, here's how. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can check it out now at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. At Prize Picks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, that are just looking to take advantage of you. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks, so get started right away. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. So now that we've discussed the quarterback conundrum now, let's talk about the defense. And yes, this defense still stinks, all right? You look at the way that they covered receivers today, the way they couldn't stop Kyren Williams in the run game. This team is absolutely terrible on the defensive side of the ball. And honestly, I predicted this when they traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young away at the trade deadline. I knew that once Emmanuel Forbes got hurt as well, that this defense would completely deteriorate with Jamin Davis out, with with Derek Forrest out, with all these playmakers that the Commanders have out now. I mean, you don't have Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Look at the results here. Matthew Stafford. And listen, the Rams offense is a good offense. Don't get me wrong. But 25 of 33 for 258 and 2 tutties. And then Kyren Williams over 150 yards rushing today and a touchdown. Absolutely fantastic, man. So kudos to the Rams. But, man, this Commanders defense, it is the worst in the National Football League as we sit here today. My final takeaway is that it wasn't all bad today. Now, was Sam Howell terrible today? Yes, that really stinks because he might not be your franchise quarterback now. Also, the defense still stinks. Does that stink? Absolutely. But, you look at what happened today. Jacoby Brissett gave you a little bit of glimmer of hope for maybe he could come in and be a starter someday. I don't know, maybe. Who knows? He's a free agent next year. But, it wasn't all bad because of the draft positioning aspect of it, right? You still put up some nice offensive production with a quarterback today, but you still took the loss and you're still keeping your top 5 draft positioning here, where if you would have won, you might have dropped out of the top 5 of the draft order here. Right now, what we have right now, Commanders sitting at 4-10, number 4 in the updated draft order. The Carolina Panthers did win today, so that battle for that number 1 spot is officially back on between the Bears, Patriots, and Cardinals. But you know what? Could the Commanders sneak into that top 3 potentially? I could absolutely see it, especially if the Cardinals keep winning with Kyler Murray, which would put them in position to potentially get a Drake May or a Caleb Williams, which would be very exciting for this fan base. So some final kind of thoughts here. I don't know what the Commanders should do at the end of the day at the quarterback position here, because Brissett, I think, is clearly the better quarterback. I mean, the defense knew that he had to throw the football, and he was delivering shots down the field. I mean, he's got a big arm. I mean, I was surprised by how fast the ball was coming out of his hands. He was decisive. He was hitting open receivers. He was putting it right on the money. He was capitalizing in the red zone, something the Commanders have struggled with all season long. And it's just way better. All right, so I'm not sure if they should start him. Sam Howell is really the only guy that I think has a future with this team. Don't think you bring back Jacoby as your starter next year with how old he is at this point. So I think you start Howell moving forward. But, man, that's just going to lose this locker room even more. After seeing the performance that Brissett put in today, if you're going to tell Terry McLaurin that you're going to trot Sam Howell back out there, I don't know if you'd be okay with that. So Ron Rivera said in his post-game press conference just now, producer Coop just told me, that Sam Howell will remain the starter here in Washington. And honestly, I think that's probably the right call because this season is over. You're not really trying to win games. Your number 1 priority is to evaluate Sam Howell. So it's definitely interesting that they pulled him in this game, given that that's the case. And it's definitely interesting that Brissett played the way he did. I think Brissett earned himself a potential starting job in this league next year with whoever he decides to sign with. So congratulations to Jacoby, man. Great job for Mr. JB today. So let me know down there in the comment section, who do you blame for today's loss? Do you blame Ron Rivera? Do you blame Sam Howell? Do you blame Dan Snyder? That's always a fun one. Go ahead down there. Let me know down there in the comment section, who do you blame for this Week 15 loss to the Rams? That'll be it for me today, Commanders fans. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button. We're going to be talking about Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, NFL draft stuff, free agency stuff this week, all leading up to next week's watch party when we play the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers could be playing in that one, so if you want to see that watch party and come hang out with your fellow Commanders fans, make sure you click that subscribe button right now.